Armada Book 7 Chapter 6, The Alien Commander Part 2. Ellie, I will TP the APC now. They saw the APC truck disappear. Ellie and Fanny would be next with the Humvee. Then Solis' team, then Jack's team. The last would be you, Reek and Jack. What will happen is that you would be cloaked or made invisible, then you would be wrapped in a time bubble to protect you, and then the time bubble is wrapped in another time bubble, then this bubble travels through a time stream, and then you will appear in our ship. You would feel like you blinked and the screen changes. Ellie explained. How many are in your ship, Dr. Reek? Solis asked. Right now just 6? There are 11 of us commanders plus your team of 6 and Jack's 3. We have some special forces coming in from the New Mexico base after us. You could say we are very few. Olive approached Amos. Sergeant Amos, Roger is asking if you would like to be the chef of the ship. None of the people here and in the ship have your skill set. Sure, Olive. Olive transported the people to the mission hall where Roger and Billy were. They all waited until all the team members were beamed in. Roger reintroduced himself and Billy, then they toured them around the ship and ended the tour by showing them their quarters. Then Rabina and Linda's group beamed in with a Special Forces team of 8 led by Captain Riker. Roger was surprised that Riker knew him. He knew a Riker back in his world, having gone through school and military training together. The Riker in this world looks the same and similarly predisposed to joking around with him. Later that afternoon, Roger called a meeting at the mission room for all ship personnel. Billy started the meeting. He began by explaining what the scientists were working on, then he explained their intention to travel into another dimension to look for a friendly armada, then he explained what the armada is all about. Then he looked at Roger. Before you guys came aboard, we got Dr. Rebecca bought in and she devised a tag system that we can place inside our enemy so we would know where they are. More importantly, we can easily TP them away to wherever we want. Normally, Olive gets a scan of the body and determines the TP parameters to beam in the subject. With this tag system, a peg is identified by the ship. These tags or pegs have codes in them that shows a lot of information. Rebecca provided a deployment system that can be mounted on your rifles and you can just shoot the subject like darts, except that these are very, very small. In our case, Olive beams the tag inside our bodies just above the pelvic bone, and this will be our permanent tags. Roger explained. Let me get this straight, Roger, if I tag say a whole team say of 10 men, we can move these 10 people anyway and anywhere we want? Riker asked. Yes buddy, up to 40 mly away. If we tag all the aliens, we can TP them in a holding planet within 40 mly and they would never be able to leave since they do not have their ships? Ellie asked. Absolutely correct, Ellie. And that's the plan, by the way. There are 1,000 alien ships near Earth and 10 Maccabee ships. There are more than 2,000 aliens per ship, so you would be looking at 2 million people to tag. Now there are only 28 of us including the chef. We cannot tag these people in a year. But we can tag the leaders. Roger said. We can only tag the aliens but not the Maccabees since they are almost always cloaked. Rabina said. What about the UEG, are we going to deal with them? Jack asked. Billy looked at Rabina. We have created drone probes out of the regular repair bots of this ship. Olive, can you send a repair bot here please? Anyway, these drones will be deployed cloaked right into the battle rooms of the enemy, right into the offices and houses of their leaders. If they are collaborating with the aliens, we would surely know. We intend to document all their dealings and plan accordingly. Rabina said. A repair bot flew in through the door. These bots have been following our every move from the time we met before the ambush up to the time we beamed in. Ellie said. I was wondering how you can tell when to stop and what route to take. Solis said. Remember that after we gather the intel, we will report and transfer these to Tim Jeffrey and Rick Logan so that with their help we can respond accordingly. But our priority is to be able to DG into another dimension to get Armada help. Billy said. Actually, we can DG back to my dimension since I believe that our Armada may have succeeded in dealing with the Maccabee traitors. It's been more than 10 years that I have left the place. If the Maccabees are still in power we can DG into where Ellie, my Ellie, went and meet up with her. Roger said. Roger, tell me buddy, how do you know who to trust? Like us here? Riker asked. We have your names. All of you belong to the Armada in my dimension. You, Solis, Jack, Julian, Jason, all the scientists here. The Armada here will be led by Billy since Andrew has been killed. Ellie will head all Armada science and technology. Secretary Albert Baker would head the human colonies in space. That is why it is so important to preserve the Armada personalities. We need the leaders to lead the Armada in due time. That is why the aliens assassinated the Armada leaders early on. Imagine the Maccabees traveled for a year from 18 BLY away just to kill the leaders here on Earth. They know who their enemies are and they know these leaders are worth all the trouble and travel since they are the only people that can bring them down. Roger was not very successful in preserving the leaders. While he monitored them in cloaked state, he could not have known of the aliens in human form. Now they are sitting there waiting for an armada to show itself. In the meantime, they made sure that we kill each other. Billy said. They understand human nature. Fanny said. Absolutely. Rebecca agreed. We would like to reorganize our people. Ellie and her team has their work cut out for them. I would like to create several teams of infiltrators and taggers. We have to develop our processes and procedures to be efficient in this line of work. Billy said. If you think about it, we can stay in a cloaked state in the enemy ships for days to finish the job. Riker said. You would need hackers who are also cloaked to try to get into their systems and try to provide us with a direct link into the enemy data centers. Ellie said. Very good, Ellie. But we only need to hack into the main lead ships. That would be a job for Pierce and the science teams. Olive can help you come out with a hack to get into their systems. Remember, you have a working system to hack right here. Olive can tell you the vulnerabilities of their systems. Roger said. We can also create a virus suited for their systems. Something that will disable them when the time is right. We can let the virus just sit there until the time we need them. Rabina said. If we can time the virus to dehibernate, we can also time a second virus or a third. I am sure they have an antivirus procedure in place. Linda suggested. Very good, Linda, we can do that too. Ellie said. Their antivirus response, we have it. Just ask Olive. Then you can devise a virus that will overcome these responses. You are saying that we cannot rely on the virus in the long run. Sooner or later they will break the virus. Riker said. It takes one to know one. But we have an upper hand. If we can disable them for a few days, we can TP them out during that time. Olive has 40 TPs in the ship, which is standard for all Maccabee ships this size. The alien ships have one or maybe a couple. Roger explained. We can have the virus take over their TP systems. This way when we TP them out, they cannot beam back in since their TPs are not working. Rebecca said. Why stop there? Let's program their TPs to follow Olive. Ellie said. In the end, we would still rely on our infiltrator and hacker groups. Linda said. Yes, Linda, that's true. I will draw up the names and post them in your tablets tomorrow. Since there are 28 of us, a 3-man team means we have 9 teams. Does this mean that the chef does not go out? Amos shouted. They all laugh. How about a rotation for the chef? Billy asked. He can take my place. Ellie said. Me too. Rabina said. Guys, the math is simple. Create 4-man teams so there would be exactly 7 teams. Everybody goes out and 4 people in a team can finish the job in a ship faster. Mito said. You're right. 4-man teams then. I will provide the list. Billy said. What do you think, Tony? Roger asked. I'm hungry. Tony answered. You have been sitting there all this time and all you can say is that you're hungry? Billy shouted at him. They all laughed. I can't think when I'm hungry. Amos, what's for dinner? Spaghetti and chicken. Ellie stood quickly. Come on. Spaghetti and chicken is worth more than all the war planning in the world. They all laughed and stood. At the mess hall, Ellie sat between Rabina and Fanny. Rebecca sat across her between Solis and Jack. Reek sat beside his nephew and Julian sat across him, beside Rabina. I did a quick review of the technologies of this ship and amazing is an understatement. Rabina said. And Olive as the ship AI is really smart. Rebecca said. Olive appeared and Ellie helped create me. Olive, the Ellie who helped to create you, how is she? Ellie asked. She is just like you. Whatever you do, think and act, she does, think and act the same way. When you meet your double, the theory is that you would actually feel what she is feeling and she would feel what you are feeling. And Rabina, Fanny, Rebecca, your doubles are also like you. I can actually predict what you will say or think in certain situations since your personalities are in my data system. For example, Rabina does not like fish and Fanny loves milk. Rebecca loves cakes and you, Ellie, you love tea, Persian tea is your favorite. And you have information about me also? Yes, Dr. Reek. For example, since you have not seen your daughter for several years now and you should be worried about how she is, but instead you worry more about her marrying somebody rather than worrying about her safety. And Solis, you have a way with men. They all laugh. She does, I've seen her in action since high school. Jack said. They laugh again. There must be some marked differences that we have with our doubles. Fanny argued. Yes, 0.01% of the time at most. However you were raised, educated, and lived your lives, you will always do the things you do. It's in your genes. For example, even if you did not study electrical engineering, you will solve electrical engineering problems. But since you have a doctorate on the subject, the DG project is definitely right up your alley. Amos started to bring out the food and some of the men stood to help him. I can just beam the food from the kitchen to the table. Olive said. No, part of the food is serving it the right way. Amos said and got back with some wine and brandy. I haven't had spaghetti in 10 years and this is really good. And the breaded chicken goes well with the pasta. Reek said. I have never tasted wine since 5 years ago. Fanny said. You should taste the brandy. Reek said. All of this is compliment of Billy. He has a stockpile that will last for 3 years for 5 times our number. Ellie said. Olive, do you grow your vegetables here? No, but we can. In fact, part of my programming is to develop vegetable sources in this type of ship. Fanny looked at her tablet. Here it is. You have everything here. Fanny said. Uncle Ole, you weren't kidding about this brandy. I think I can finish a bottle. Reek laughed. Hey, Amos, I think you should be barred from going out on missions. I agree. Solis said. Amos looked at her. You're our most valuable resource. Ellie said. They all laughed. Olive announced, after dinner, you would all have to retire early. Billy will call a meeting at 3 a.m. Why so early? Solis asked. The aliens work all night long. There is a small window between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. where their activity is at a minimum. We would be sending out drones at this time and observe them to see if it would be the best time to go in and do our work. The observation process would be exploratory on how we should respond and strategize. Reek explained. The next morning at 3 a.m., they were all in the mission room. The mission room has chairs and tables in semicircle, centered facing the front of the room, which was lower than the chairs area. All the scientists were in pajamas while the soldiers were in their regular greens. Roger's commanders were in jeans and shirt. Billy and Tony were wearing robes over their pajamas. Amos set up coffee and tea on a table at the side of the room. Roger started the meeting. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All throughout the night Olive intermittently scanned the ships to confirm which ones were the lead ships. There were 2 main ships, one for each of the alien groups. As we found out, there were 2 alien groups other than the Maccabees. But only the darker aliens went down to Earth to slug it out. Each of the 2 has 6 lead ships. We are thus looking at 14 ships total. Rabina and Ellie, and later with the help of Rebecca and Pierce, rigged 8 more drones, so we have 10 total so far. 4 has scanning capabilities, all have audio and visual. Olive and Pierce have determined that it would be safe for us to send our drones into these main alien ships since they could not see anything cloaked. Olive will be sending our drones to the main ship bridge, engine room and launch bays. One of the drones would be roving around crew quarters and mess halls. Olive, send out the drones please. I have beamed the drones to the designated positions inside the ships. Visual and sound in 40 seconds. Then the mission room became quiet. For more than 10 minutes, nobody made a sound. This is sickening. Ellie said, breaking the stillness. The reason we do not see any alien activity on Earth at these times is because they're busy eating. Eating humans. Roger said. Billy stood and walked in front, amidst the holos. Olive, have our drones gotten into their systems? Billy asked. Yes, but it will take 12 minutes before we see any recognizable data. I am trying to piece together their language. Make sure we get the system's information, Olive. Rabina said. We have them. I also know what their antivirus protocols are. I don't get it. We have not heard of these aliens abducting any humans. Mito said. The humans look like South Americans. Some are Asians. Roger said. Olive, how many TPs does the aliens have? Fanny asked. Each of the main and lead ships have 1. The others do not have TPs. Are the Maccabee ships scanning the alien ships, Olive? Billy asked. Yes, Billy, all the ships are scanned regularly, every 380.2 minutes. The scans last for 6 minutes from bow to stern. The ideal situation is to deploy the virus from the alien ships to the Maccabees. This way we can load it up during any of their communications. Ellie said. Yes, Ellie, they regularly communicate. The aliens give a report to the Maccabees on certain things every day. They also have a lot of unscheduled discussions. Remember, 3 virus that dehibernate in 3 different times. Linda said. I have the aliens' names. The tall ones on the left are called Laninos while the brown one on the right are called Runicamus. Let's call them Lanins and Runics. Roger said. Yes, Roger. The Runics are those we see on the ground while the Lanins are those that do the strafing and operate the drones. And both eat humans. Ellie said. And they do not even cook them. Solis said. This comment elicited a quiet laugh from the others. Roger, if they cannot see our drone probes they surely will not see us go in and tag them. We can even put cloaked bombs in their ships. Riker said. Absolutely correct, Riker. And we will do that as soon as we get some bombs downside. Billy said. We have a very large stockpile of C4S and portable thermos. Fanny said. How large are these portable thermos? Roger asked. The size of a regular large luggage. This tall and this wide. Fanny said and showed the size with her hands. We have to tie in the bomb switches with our virus. Ellie said. One issue is that we have to steal the bombs. It does not make sense to go in, load them in trucks and leave. Add the red tape for getting our hands on the thermos. Fanny said. I agree. We need a lot of these, thousands, since we would be putting several in a ship. We should just go in, tag the bombs and beam them here. Roger said. It's a plan then. So Lise, you're the team on this since you know the place. Billy said. We also have a stockpile at our base in New Mexico. I can have my men tag them so we can TP them here. Riker said. I agree. The faster we get the bombs the better for our operations. Roger said. We would have to tag the humans they are eating in their ships so we can TP them downside. Ellie said. Very good, Ellie. We cannot blow our people together with the monsters. Billy said. Reek, I think our team can do the tagging. Roger said. I agree. Reek said. I would have to create more tag and tag shooters. Rebecca said. So everybody's job is now clearer. The science team would be under Ellie and they would create the tags, the virus and hack into their systems while working on the DG issue. So Lise and Riker would study the deployment scenarios, the bomb locations, and other special needs we should do to hurt the aliens more. Reek would look at the best way to tag the humans. While Roger and I will talk to the big bosses downside. Billy concluded. Yes, Billy, you're really good. We do need to talk to Albert and Harold. I actually promised to update them of any major undertaking we would be doing. Roger said. I think we need more technical people. Maybe 12 more to help with the development of weapons against our enemies with the technologies we have here. Ellie said. I have a list of names for your science team, Ellie. These were your people in the other side. Some are Rabina's, Fanny's, and Rebecca's. Olive said. Ellie looked at her tablet and, yes, I know some of these people. I think I can come out with 3 people from this list. Rabina said. Yes, these guys are good but I will only get the best. Rebecca said. I don't think these people are still alive. These 2 are alive but I would not get them. We also need a group of hackers. Fanny said. I have a list of good hackers. Olive projected the names in a hollow beside Rabina. 2 of these names. We just got them. To get these 2, we would have to get General Tim Jeffrey in on the intel. Fanny said. Tim Jeffrey and Rick Logan are part of the Armada. I can TP these 2 in so you can talk to them. The general sleeps late so right now he is sleeping. Beam him in at one of the beds. Fanny said. I will beam you down so you can tag him. Then I will beam you 2 back in 10 minutes. Olive said. Very good, Fanny. Riker, it may be a good idea to talk to Rick. Billy said. We need his help in getting the bombs and so many other logistics. Olive, TP me downside so I can tag him then you can TP him into one of the beds also. Riker said. Olive, get the tag shooters in the lab for these 2. Rebecca said. Olive, where is Harold and Albert right now? Roger asked. Harold and Albert are both sleeping. They usually wake up at 8 to 9 a.m. because they always sleep very late. Billy, tag Harold while I tag Albert. Roger said. After 15 minutes the 4 leaders were awakened and Olive beamed them to the mission room. Tim and Rick were surprised while Harold and Albert did not miss a beat. Welcome to our pajama party, guys. Albert said. The group laughed. Roger made it a point to introduce all the people in the ship including Amos who was replenishing the coffee and tea table. Roger, please go on with the meeting so we can go back earlier. We can not just disappear, it would create doubt in the leadership. Harold said. Roger quickly gave the 4 a recap of their plans. The 4 were surprised at the videos they presented. Roger, this is appalling. We have to work faster, the more we wait the more of our people get eaten. Harold exclaimed. Tim, Rick, give these people all the bombs and thermos they need. Albert said. Yes, sir. Tim and Rick replied quickly. We also need some people. I have a list. Ellie interjected. She gave the 4 leaders her list. The people under your names are the people under your command. The others, we would have to look for them. If we cannot find them in a day, we would have to let them go. I can help look for them. And by the way, Fanny, you can have the 2 hackers. Tim said. We also need people, at least 30, who know how to go in to set the bombs and thermos, people who can infiltrate the enemy and set things up. Billy said. Riker, go down and select the men from among your teams. Rick said. Yes, sir. I can make up a list, have Olive confirm them as Armada personnel and send them over to you. Try to limit all your recruitment to those very close and loyal to you. Roger said. Make sure you stay away from politicians and those people working for politicians. Harold said. They all laughed. I have to go. Albert declared. Harold, me too, I have to go. Tim, Rick, help Roger and his group make this happen. Tim and Rick, yes sir. Albert and Harold disappeared. Tim and Rick left shortly after. The next day, Roger, Tim and Rick have confirmed that the trucks full of C4S and Thermos would be ready to leave mid-afternoon today. Olive said. Very good, Olive, have Dr. Reek and Captain Solis beam down in bikes and drive them out. Tell Linda and Riker to go down in bikes to drive the truck out. Then beam them here when it's safe. Ellie and Billy appeared. Roger, can you tell Kirk and Meadows to get our science people? We're too busy to do this. Ellie said. Roger, there are 2 trucks from Tim and 3 from Rick. Olive said. Tell Captain Reek to go with Linda and Riker to get the 3 trucks. I have also sent the list of names to Tim that Solis and Reek listed as their people. I have verified that they are all Armada people. Riker also had a list that I sent to Rick so that they would come back with the people. Always make sure the names are Armada people. Yes, Roger. Roger, I have come out with several infiltration scenarios that we can have our people train on. One would be the infiltration of the main Lannan and Runic ships and then their regular ships. I have also created an assault and battle scenarios on the Maccabee ships. Billy said. The problem with assaulting the ships is that the ships would beam our people out. Roger said. That is why we need to send a virus in. Olive told me that your Ellie and her team created a virus, but the virus will only result in a standstill of about 3 hours before the ships reboot and are able to beam our people out. Rabina is in charge of creating the second virus that would kick in after the first. Olive told me about that. But we only need an hour or so into the ships. A 5-man team can get in, set off a bomb at their engines, cloaking generators, and bridge. Each ship has 8 engines and 4 cloaking generators that are all centrally controlled at the bridge. We have to knock off all 4 cloaking generators and all their engines. Or at least bomb their command and control communication systems. Then they would be sitting ducks, unable to cloak and see any cloaked personnel or ship. Then we send in more bombs. Billy said. It would be a very risky, almost suicidal mission. Roger said. A lot of our people will take that risk. I would. Billy said. No, you're too important to risk. How many people do we need? Roger asked. For the 10 Maccabee ships, 50 people. Billy answered. Olive, how many people are Solis and Riker bringing in this evening? 18 people, Roger. I can provide them 32 more names that are all Armada people so they can get them by tonight. Do that, Olive. We still need to train these people on their infiltration tasks. We may need 2 weeks to train them before sending them out. Billy said. Ellie, that means you have 2 weeks to finish with our DG problem. Roger commented. I think we can finish in less time. Fanny is really good at this job. You tell her the basic concept and she can figure out which is which. Just then Fanny appeared. Ellie, we have a problem. The group laughed. Problems are good. Billy quipped in monotone. Fanny started. Roger, when you traveled into our dimension, you actually came from a dimension that is 40 years ahead of us. Now the DG travels are good within a certain time band. As the time difference become larger, the dimension addresses become less stable. So if you want to travel to a dimension 80 years ahead, because of this instability, you are not assured that you will get into that dimension 80 years ahead that you chose. You could end up in a different dimension 80 years ahead. The error becomes smaller as the time difference becomes smaller. Ellie interjected. She is saying that if we dial your dimension which is 40 years ahead, we may not hit that timeline, especially with our crude instrumentation. It could thus be very risky for all of us in this ship. I like risky. Billy said. Me too. Roger agreed. Ellie and Fanny smiled. I believe Ellie and I would be finished in less than 2 weeks then. Fanny concluded. The next day Tony, Billy and Roger were at the mess hall eating. Ellie, Rabina and Dr. Reek walked in and joined them. I looked at their small thermonuclear bombs and realized one bomb can obliterate the whole ship. Rabina commented. So the choice is whether to save a ship or blow them all up. Billy said. I would rather blow them all up. Roger countered. We need to get at least one ship intact to study. Billy said. I agree. We have to have their intel. Ellie said. Reek, you're in charge of choosing and saving one ship. Roger said. Sure, Roger. I don't have to leave anybody alive, right? Yes, you can kill everybody on board. I think we should deploy most of our attack personnel from Earth, Tony said. Olive appeared. Roger, Tony has asked me if we can set up one TP in several locations on Earth and I told him yes. I think that's a brilliant idea. See Billy, your cousin is really good at this. Roger said. Billy laughed. Okay, I agree we should deploy our people from downside. This way nobody can see our ship. But TP control would come from here. We can set up 10 TP stations in various locations. Olive said as she provided a list of bases. I think the operation will be less secure if we have 10 bases of operations. Reek said. I agree. 2 would be okay. Roger said. What we can do is to train our 50 assault operatives for 2 weeks and then have 10 of them train 100 troops in another 2 weeks downside. Once we have our assault scenarios mapped out, we can deploy and end this within a day. Billy said. Right now until we can DG out, we should have a quick draw option. The Maccabees may get wind of our operations and plan to attack this ship. We should be able to quickly deploy, bomb and kill all of them before they kill all of us. Roger said. I agree. I will try to get 10 people to act as suicide bombers. These people will have their thermos near them at all times and Olive can automatically beam them into the enemy ships as the Maccabees beam into ours. Reek said. I think we can deploy the original virus tonight through the Lon-Ins and Runics and then send the secondary virus in a few days. Rabina said. After more than a week, at the mission hall. Good morning guys, please sit. Roger said. He could see the mission room is packed with people sitting on the aisles and standing near the door and at the back. Billy stood. Good morning. I will start the meeting by giving a recap of our activities in the last week. First, the DG switching issue has a solution, untested but our hope is high. Second, I have looked at the teams of infiltration guys and I would like to say that their performance was impressive. The teams have practiced on all the more than 24 scenarios in infiltrating the ships, the bombing and tagging. I would like to mention that in some cases they actually beamed into the ship and performed their routines, all cloaked, and we realized the fine-tuning needed for the tasks identified. The last is our quick draw option. At first we had 10 suicide people, now we have another 10 as backup. I would like to mention that when I asked for suicide volunteers to take one step forward, everybody took one step, so I had Olive rank them and the 20 people are the highest ranked. Surprisingly, Solis and Riker did not rank, but Kirk and Captain Reek did. So Kirk will head the first 10 while Captain Reek will head the next 10. I want to remind all the suicide bombers about Armada rule number 1, and this is that Olive will beam you out when your lives are compromised. But this time she will only do this once you set the bomb off, then Olive has only 0.8 seconds to take you out to safety. It could happen you may be beamed out too late, so there is real risk of dying. Solis, Meadows and Riker will head the commando assault troops that will deploy as soon as our suicide bombers are deployed. They will start with the Lon-Ins and Runics where bombs have disabled the ships. Roger walked nearer to Billy. Rebecca and Bill Reel will head the TP program in the Colorado base and New Mexico base respectively. They will set up 2 TPs each for each of the bases. We could set up more, but the power requirement to run these 2 when we need them is more than the base can deliver. The plan is for the 30 infiltrators we have trained to train another 120 people to form the primary assault body in a span of 2 weeks to eventually assault primarily the 14 main Lannan and Runic ships and the 10 Maccabee ships if the bombs fail, or if not, proceed with the Lon-Ins and Runics. Tim and Rick suggested readying at least 1,000 troops as secondary assault troop body and another 1,000 as reinforcement and clean-up crew. Hopefully the team will be able to leave the main Maccabee command ship intact for us to gather intel. If the assault is successful, the suicide bombers would just get into the ships, leave their bombs to explode and TP out, or may not need to at all if the operations turn out well. Reek stood. One other task is what we call tagging and bombing. Solis and Riker's people together with our suicide teams are the main taggers, bombers and infiltrators, while all the rest have been training for the past week. Their teams have tagged all the leadership of the 14 main alien ships. They also have placed 1 thermo and a few dozen C4S on all their engines. They placed the thermo on the main engine with some C4S. A few days ago, they have started to tag the leadership of the rest of the alien ship and bomb their engines. They will continue to work on the other ships for the next week until the Earth operations can feel ready to do their work. Ellie stood. The first virus, the one designed by Roger's Dimension, has been uploaded to all the alien ships and in all the Maccabee ships. 3 days later we send our second virus designed by Rabina's team with Olive's help. The first virus will activate in 20 days from now or when Olive's activated. Roger believes that the Maccabees may be getting wind of our activities. Drone holos show that the aliens have not, and our analysis of the Maccabee behavior show they have not. But it is no guarantee that they have not. That is the primary reason for our suicide bombers, to quickly deploy and detonate inside the Maccabee ships. So it is always good to be prepared. Now we cannot DG out of here because we may not be able to return. And if we leave, Olive may not be around to help in the assault. So right now would be a waiting game. We cannot test our DG because the Maccabees will see a spike in energy near our area. Thank you, Ellie. She is telling us that while you all can die in the assault, we will die somewhere else. Roger said. The mission hall laughed and Ellie nudged him. Seriously, the choice was not easy. My original mission was to look for an armada to help us, now we have to finish what we started before we leave. Roger continued. The issue with leaving is that we may not be able to come back even if we find the help we needed. We really have to make this work. Billy said. 11 days later, Olive sounded the ship alarm. Roger, Billy, Ellie, Reek and Rabina beamed to the bridge. 20 suicide bombers are out. Olive said. The first virus has been activated. Tim and Rick are moving. The bridge showed 9 Maccabee ships explode, each explosion almost like a ball, almost simultaneous. 20 persons appeared behind the bridge. Reek looked for his nephew and walked to hug him. The 20 walked quickly nearer to watch the holos. The 10th ship had several small explosions near its engines and cloaking generators. Roger looked at Reek. Reek, clean the place up. Dr. Reek and the 20 bombers disappeared. Olive beamed several drones inside the command ship and they could see Reek's team move effortlessly, killing any Maccabee they see. Reek's people were operating with 4-man teams and deployed on several floors. There were multiple grenade explosions, a lot of heavy weapons fire. The Maccabee ship was slightly dark with only backup lights operating. It's a good thing we decided on using heavier firepower. It turned out to be just right to kill the Maccabees. If we used smaller and more portable weapons, we would be wasting our time shooting at the enemy. Billy exclaimed. It's a good thing we studied the weapons complement needed for the assault. I think it's not too heavy and definitely not light. A lot of grenades, grenade launchers, and submachine guns. Ellie said. I estimate we would run out of grenades before halftime and ammo about that time also. Most of our stocks are downside. Rabina said. We would have to rely on the second and third assault groups. Roger said. The Maccabees do not know how to fight. Billy said as he pointed to a holo. I told you so. But it's better to be the best at what we can do. Olive start beaming their leadership out of their ships. Roger said. Yes, Roger. The 2 bases are now on high alert. Our commander assault troops headed by Solis, Mitos, and Riker have deployed into the bombed-out ships. The virus does not seem to affect the Lannan and Runic ship systems, but it stalled the Maccabee ships. That's not good. Ellie commented. Several other holos appear. The 14 alien main ships all had major explosions, some destroyed the whole ship. Then several hundred more alien ships explode, some with small explosions in their engine area. Then some holos switch to drone images of the alien ships being assaulted by the primary assault troops from the 2 bases. There were 10 people deployed per ship. The Lannans and Runics were no match against the assault troops who have studied their ships and knew where to move and when. Olive continuously updates them using their earpieces where the enemy were and gives them options on what to do. Reek got back to the bridge. I thought you took a leak and now you're here. Roger quipped. Reek laughed. The command ship is secure and 10 scientists have gone into the ship. Kirk is in command with 10 troops. I have sent the other 10 under Jack to their choice of ship. Billy laughed. Which one did they choose? They chose the biggest Lannan ship. Olive said. Ellie shouted, that's just a warehouse. They all laughed. Yes, and it only has 10 Lannans. I am moving them to a Runic ship. Roger pointed to a holo. Those 10 ships are moving to bomb Earth. Tell the secondary assault troops to assault those 10. There are 40 more ships moving to bomb Earth. Olive said. Tell Tim and Rick to ready the secondary assault troops. We will beam them into those 50 ships. Roger said. Tim has 400 troops ready to move. I will beam 20 to a ship. Rick has 400 also. Olive said. Olive, once the battle reaches its peak, move some of those in the 40 ships to the remaining 10. Yes, Roger. Olive, continuously readjust the team numbers. Make sure the primary team's number 10 and the secondary at 20 persons at all times. Billy said. Ellie could see the Colorado-based medic hall attending to several men and women wounded in the assault. It's a good thing Rebecca took some of our advanced medical technologies downside. Can you ask Harold, Albert, Tim and Rick if they want to monitor the assault from here? Roger asked. The 4 appeared behind the bridge. My aide just woke me up to tell me the aliens are moving. Then Olive appeared to ask me in front of my people whether I want to monitor the assault. Albert said. You should see the face of my people. Harold seconded. They all laughed. It's a good thing you had the reinforcement on standby, Tim, Rick. Billy said. We had to TP them to 50 ships that were moving to bomb Earth. Roger said. 50 more ships are moving toward the west towards Earth. Rick said as he pointed to one holo to his left. Olive, tell all our commander teams and primary troops to redeploy and concentrate on bombing their engines. Concentrate on those that are not moving. A quick in and out, cloaked, standard pack of 10 C4S per engine. Then detonate the bombs as soon as they leave. Billy said. We have 160 people that will be reassigned as soon as they finish with their present engagement. Billy observed the first 50 ships have slowed. Move the Earthside assault troops from the 50 ships to the other 50 that are moving towards the west. Billy instructed. Most of the secondary assault people are running out of ammunition and grenades. Olive said. Beam those back to base and let them reload. Readjust their deployment back to 20 per ship. Billy said. We have troops good for only 12 ships. Olive said. Several screens show hundreds of ships having several small explosions near their engines. We will run out of C4S in 2 more trips. There will be more than 360 ships that will not be bombed. Olive said. Olive, beam me to my office now. I will ready all the C4S I have. Tim said. Beam me to my office also. Rick said. Tell the 2 to pack their C4S in 10 block packs, preferably in backpacks with a radio-controlled detonator. Billy said. Olive, are you implementing the Armada rule number 1? Roger asked. Yes, Roger, none of our people have died. So far 10 has life-threatening wounds while 48 have non-life-threatening wounds. How about human prisoners are in the ships? Harold asked. We estimate that the aliens are holding more than 1.2 million humans on board. For those in the main ships and other lead ships, they are all gone. It was a quick draw and my people had to detonate the bombs quickly. For those ships cleaned up, they can get medical help if we start doing so now. The rest we cannot do anything until we finish our operations. Roger explained. It would not be safe for our med teams to beam in while the war is in progress. Ellie followed through. The aliens are sending their strafing ships. Billy observed. Olive, show my hologram in front of my Central Command officers at the war room. Albert said. Ed, I want you to ready all our remaining planes. The aliens are sending their small attack ships. I want you to engage them immediately. Albert told General Ed Barry, his Armed Forces Chief of Staff. Yes, sir, Ed saluted. Mila, I want you to round up thousands of medical personnel, at least 100,000, deploy all our medical personnel, to get ready in the city centers where the aliens have bases to take care of human refugees. Albert continued. Refugees? Mila asked. Harold appeared before Albert's people, humans the aliens have not eaten yet. The command staff were surprised. Mila saluted, yes, Mr. President. Sir. Ed, I also want you to mobilize at least 5,000 troops and 1,000 medics ready to deploy onto the alien ships for final cleanup operations and to secure and provide immediate aid to the refugees. We will deploy in groups of 6 per ship. Harold said. Olive, show the most pertinent holos to Albert's people so they can see what's happening. Have you started to show the holos to Tim's and Rick's people? Roger asked. Yes, Roger, as soon as the engagement started, Tim's and Rick's people are on it. I will now show a dozen holos to Albert's and Harold's people. Tim appeared, the troops have started to get the C4S. Roger. My people are preparing the ammos and grenades for our troops. At Tim's war room, Tim and his staff could see the bombing and assault in progress. They realized the troops would be needed. Tim told his commanders to ready the troops at the hangar next to the secret TP room. After a few minutes, the troops are ready and waiting to deploy, sir. Shannon said. Tim realized that Shannon is in full combat gear and has a short multiple grenade launcher slung at her back. Tim walked in front of his men and looked at his people. As you know, we have started to bomb and assault the alien ships. This is what you have been waiting for. I know you guys only had 4 days of training on the mission, but we were found out. Make sure you review the alien ship locations before you deploy. You will be deployed in groups of 30 per ship with 5 units deployed per location. Your job is to make sure that all aliens are dead. There are human captives in their ships numbering maybe 1,200 per ship and they are locked up in various rooms. After you secure the ship, leave 2 men to secure the humans. Tim said. Why are there humans on board, sir? Shannon asked. They eat them. Don't get too excited and too angry. I want you to do a good job and work efficiently. Time is not on our side. We must secure several hundred more ships. The commander groups and the primary and secondary assault troops will not be able to finish the job. A lot have been wounded and some of their wounds are life-threatening. Try not to get wounded. If you get wounded and be unable to fight, Olive will beam you out of the battle area and you wouldn't get to kill the aliens anymore. Who's Olive? Shannon asked. Olive appeared. This is Olive, she is our ship AI from 10 MLY away. She will be talking to your group leaders to give you the alien positions and give you options on what to do. Olive, where are the earpieces? Several dozen earpieces appear beside Shannon. Back at Rogers Bridge. Rick's and Tim C4S would be enough to finish the job. It will take another hour to bomb all the ships. Olive said. There could be reprisal killings. How many ships that are yet to be secured, Olive? Billy asked. 560 ships. It will take us 3 more hours to secure all the ships. Our wounded have increased to 89 with 18 life-threatening. So Lisa and Amos were both wounded but not life-threatening. Roger, I told you not to let Amos leave the ship. Reek said. How did this happen? Olive? Ellie asked. Roger approved the request. Anyway, Amos is now in the kitchen working with a wounded arm. So Lisa is in her room resting. You let the cook out, Roger? Billy asked. He threatened not to cook if I did not let him fight. What can I do? Roger exclaimed. Harold and Albert laughed at the exchange. I would never let the cook fight. Albert said with a smile. Why don't I get the White House chef to help Amos cook for all of you? Harold said. We would be leaving after the engagement. And it could be a one-way trip. Roger said. Nonsense, Roger. Olive, get my chef Sarah here. Harold said. After a few minutes, a petite lady appeared. Harold told her to help the ship cook who was wounded in the assault to prepare their food. The lady nodded and Olive beamed her to Amos. Mitos and Julian are now in their rooms resting. They were sedated after their wounds were treated. Max just got beamed into the medic hall, his right foot got shot with a laser. He will live. Olive said. They continued to watch. The dogfight on Earth's skies has started with anti-aircraft guns blazing. There were continuous show of explosions in several alien ships in space. Several holos showed troops in the ships engaging the enemy. The holos did not provide any sound and they could see the assault teams signal each other as they moved quickly towards the enemy positions. Then they would unleash a barrage of grenades, exploding all over and around the enemy. Then they run and shoot at anything that moves. They do not even stop running as Olive tells them the intel on their next target. They quickly reloaded their grenade launchers and submachine guns as they ran. Billy was continuously giving orders to move people around. He concentrated on all the ships that were bombed and stalled. He methodically redeployed the assault troops ship by ship starting from the farthest ones. Amos appeared with a tray of coffee and tea. His right arm was on a sling with red patches near the hand. Nobody said a word. How do you find your new assistant Amos? Harold asked. Sir, Sarah's okay. We also came from the same country so she's okay. Amos said. She's the White House master chef. So she should be good enough to help you. Harold said. Amos was surprised. I figured she must be well trained by the way she talks and touches the items. Tell her the war gets people to be really hungry. Amos, do you have some brandy? Albert said. A brandy bottle and some glasses appear. Roger, your cook is good. He's also a magician. You ask for brandy, a bottle and glasses appear. Harold said. They all laugh. Let me open that for you. Billy said. They all got glasses and Billy started to pour. Another bottle appeared. This time Albert opened it and poured to the glasses of those in the room including Amos. How was the assault, Amos? Albert asked. Sir, the fight was really enjoyable. Amos answered. It was. I think I killed 28 Maccabees. Reek seconded. I killed about that much Lan-ins and more than a dozen runics. Amos said. Billy continued to watch as he sipped his brandy. Olive, tell the troops to secure the human areas first. Post 2 men to guard their area. I saw a reprisal killing in one holo. You have a direct link to the troops in the ships? Albert asked. They have earpieces so Olive can tell them where the enemy are and what options to take or what we tell them to do. Roger said. Amos took off his earpiece and showed it to Albert. Sir, it's actually a pretend earpiece that Olive uses to tell us things. Billy, we need to send the exploding tags for those ships that have been secured. Rabina said. Yes, Olive, start with those in the secured ships. Billy said. They could see a cloaked tag capsule explode to form a round smoke. Then the tags light up when they get embedded in human flesh. Several capsules were exploded in a group of humans. There are thousands with tags but I can only use the Earthside TPs to beam them to the base medical halls in Colorado and New Mexico. I need the other TPs for the operations. Olive explained. How are our people in the Maccabee ships doing? Ellie asked. I would have to beam them out in about 2 hours since the Maccabee ships are all programmed to explode if the ship captain does not enter the override code in 2 hours. The 2 viruses were unsuccessful in containing the self-destruct protocol. Make sure you get all the data in their data and weapon systems. Tell our people to start dismantling their main data systems now. Tell Kirk to start getting all the Maccabee weapons. Yes, Ellie. They have started to dismantle the data systems. Kirk has sent his people back with weapons. Pierce appeared. Ellie, Roger, bad news. Harold and Albert turned to face Pierce. We have translated the fleet commander's log and found out that a force of 10,000 Maccabee ships will arrive in the area in 6 months. Their mission is to dominate several species around the area. Apparently, there are other human planets and colonies in several other galaxies. Yes, we have met some of them. Roger said. Pierce continued, after their stint here, they wanted to meet at an intercept point near a human colony. This area. Olive, please. A hollow of several galaxies appear. A small planet started to blink. This is where they were supposed to meet. What happens if they found out they are all gone with ship's debris all over the place? Albert asked. They will think an Armada defeated them and look for this Armada. Billy said. I agree. They will look for Armada ships. Roger said. Was this what prompted you to sound the alarm, Olive? Billy asked. No, I was unaware of this information about the 10,000 ships. 8 of the ships started to move towards my position. They split immediately so they would be coming from 2 opposite vectors. Then the Lonins and Runik's lead ships showed a spike in their normal activity. And this was what you told me to watch out for. Very good. At least we beat them to the draw. Billy said. Olive, is there a way to salvage some of the TPs of the Maccabee ships? Pierce asked. Yes. I can identify them in a few minutes. And we can send our people out to tag them. Then I will TP these debris to Earth near Tim's base. I would like to convert some of them to have manual switches so we can use them. Pierce said. I have manual switches in storage that I removed when I took over the ship. They are all in the warehouse bay. I will beam them to Tim's warehouse now. Olive, can we also study the ships on Earth? Albert asked. Yes, Albert. If you want, I can beam the smaller good ships, those that are free of the Lonins or Runik, to an area within Tim's and Rick's bases. If you want to bring one of their regular ships, we would have to fly them down. Do that. Albert said. Of course, after the assault is done. We have passed the peak of the battle. Olive said. Tell Tim and Rick that we would be deploying their troops in a few minutes. I believe our troops are starting to show some fatigue. We may need the fresh troops for the last hour. Billy said. Linda and Jenny were wounded and both are now in our sickbay. Olive reported. That could be a result of battle fatigue. Roger said. Their adrenaline levels are all very high. The error in their movements are not significant. But some may not last the final hour. The assault was continuous and the troops kept moving, without let up. Olive said. Tim appeared. Billy, I have more than 1,000 troops ready to go. I would suggest that they function only to secure the ships and care for the human prisoners. Very good, Tim. Billy said. How many more ships to bomb, Olive? Roger asked. 124 more ships. The holos show most of the aliens' good ships starting to leave the battle area. They will still be within beaming range in 6 hours. Olive said. Redeploy all our secondary assault troops to bomb the remaining ships. Billy said. All the remaining ships will be bombed within the hour. Olive said. After the bombing, they will be sitting ducks. Albert noted. Our wounded with life-threatening cases has jumped to 34 and those with non-life-threatening wounds have jumped to 187. Almost all our first-line assault troops are wounded. I have not beamed some of them to the medic hall since they could still fight well. Olive reported. If you need to send out our last 1,000 as assault troops, you are free to do so, Billy. We may get some spike in our wounded though. Tim said. There is not much choice. Olive, tell the commanders of these last line of reinforcements from Tim that we will send them to fight in groups of 30. Billy said. After a few minutes, they are all ready to deploy. And they all seem to be too excited. I have also given the earpieces to their team leaders. Olive said. I would like to deploy the men myself, sir. Albert nodded and Tim beamed out. Tell Tim to send them all out immediately. Get our second line of troops out and beam them back to base as soon as they finish with their assigned ship. Olive, can you please ask Rick about his reinforcement troops? Tell them to get ready also. Billy said. Then they saw a large explosion of the Maccabee lead ship. Our people are safe. Olive said. Kirk and his people have redeployed to one of the alien ships. Tim and Rick's last line of reinforcements numbering 800 are ready to go, Billy. Send them all out, groups of 30, concentrate them at those ships leaving the area. And ask Tim and Rick to join us after they deploy their people, please. Billy said. It will take them 3 times longer compared to our primary assault groups to secure the ships and expect more casualties. As long as we bomb their ships, they are not going away. Albert said.